Afternoon everybody, I am down in Titanic Quarter for episode 6 of Fact Friday. So today we're taking you to the HMS Caroline, which was built in 1914, and it's got a pretty interesting history, so stay tuned for more information about it. Titanic Quarter in general is great. I mean, you've got the famous Titanic Belfast there, which is a brilliant visit. You've got Titanic Hotel, that's a red brick building that was only opened last year, and you've also got the drawing offices for Harland and Wolff. That's a really historic building. This in front of us is the Olympic Slipway. This is where the famous Titanic ship and its sister ship, the Olympic, were built. It's quite quiet today, but if you can imagine back in the day, it was a hive of industry, so it was very noisy and full of life. I love it down here because it really portrays Belfast in a really good light. Shows off its great history, and there's always tourists down here, which is nice to see in the city. It also shows the very positive attitude people of Belfast actually have. We've taken negatives such as the tragedy of the Titanic and made it into such a positive industry for the city. We are currently walking down the new Titanic walkway that was only opened this year, and up ahead of us is the Great Light, and that used to be part of a lighthouse that guided ships into Belfast Lock, and it's about 130 years old. And that beautiful thing in the distance is the glorious HMS Caroline, which is what we're going to see today. The ship, as I said, was built in 1914, and it was actually in service until 2011, which made it the second oldest ship in service at the time. This behind me is HMS Caroline. This was fully restored and opened again last year. It's now a museum ship, and just come down, you can actually go to the visitor centre, which is in the old Titanic pump house, which is pretty cool too. Just like the Tropical Ravine we visited the other week, this was restored with money from the Heritage Lottery Fund, and they did a really good job. If you had seen it in the shape it was before, they've done a magnificent job of restoring us back to its old glory. Of the ship, there's the big guns there. Don't think they work anymore, pretty glad of that. This is the crow's nest, and I'm really hoping I'll be able to get up into that, but I doubt it. So I am currently on the deck of the HMS Caroline. I got a quick cheer there from Melissa, who works for the Caroline, and thank you very much for showing me about letting me on board to film. Yeah, so very jealous of her job. So started to her on the deck. These big guns behind me are the 4-inch guns. They fired off 4-inch shells, and pretty big gun, did a lot of damage, and yeah, the shells are right behind me too. The room behind me there is the Jutland experience. That's a 15-minute video they play about the Battle of Jutland in 1916. That was a very key battle, and it's actually the biggest naval battle in history, and the HMS Caroline is the last surviving ship from that battle to be around nowadays. This beast behind me is a 6-inch gun. That's even bigger than the ones at the front of the ship. So yeah, the shells are pretty huge. You can see them down there, the yellow ones there, massive. So if you go inside with me here, it's what the captain's dining room would have looked like, the captain's mess. He got his own little private space, which is pretty cool. Everything wonderfully in here. This is the Lieutenant Commander's cabin. This is the captain's lobby here, huge space for the captain, and this is the staff surgeon's quarters as well. I need to watch my step as I go down here, but I was told by Melissa, who works for the Caroline, that the Caroline is the most accessible ship within the UK, so they have lifts that go from the top deck to the bottom one, and a lot of doorways that have bridges. They've taken a lot of those away to make it a bit more wheelchair accessible for people, so good job. Just walking through here for the rest of the tour, and this is the Marines mess. This is where they would have had all their food. There was a contingency on board, and I'm going to go through here to the officers' mess. This right here is the officers' mess. Again, restored how it would have been like during the day, with interactive sound all about the place too. Quite a nice room. Actually, record player now. And this is actually where a Marine would have sat to guard them. He would have had the curtain closed because they obviously didn't want to see his pick. As we wander through the corridors here, I want to give you a few more facts about the Caroline. So the Caroline actually was, as I said, in 2011 still going, and it was only decommissioned then properly. So it was the second oldest ship still in service at the time. Through here, this is the officer's bath place. So fancy enough for a ship. And you'll see in comparison to what the general crew would have used as bath places, definitely not as fancy. So if you are bringing your kids on board too, they do have a learning room here with lots of colouring in tools, lots of wee books and different food items and things from the day, so it's nice to bring kids along too. She told me this is her favourite fact or trivia about the ship. The ship actually had 3 mascots, 2 cats, Puff and Tom, and then they also had a rabbit called Blucher, named after a German armoured cruiser sunk at the Battle of Dogger Bank. So one thing I learned today was that the fleet that the Caroline was in also had a concert ship. So just does what it says in the tin. It's for live music, for theatre, and for the crew to let off some steam. Excuse the pun. Another quite strange thing I didn't know was that the fleets would have had dazzle ships, and that is this funky paintwork that goes all over the ship, and that's apparently to distract the camouflage ship from U-boats. So as you can hear, it's quite noisy, and that's because the engine room is down these sets of stairs. I will do a panning film in a second here, but I can't really film live down there because you won't be able to hear me. Shown you before the officer's washroom. This would have been the general cruise one. Definitely not as fancy. I think they just wash their pits and stuff in the sink. Coming up here are the ridges I was talking about at the bottom of the doors, just there. At the other side of the ship though, they have taken those down so you can still get to the main areas. So this is what I'm talking about, they've taken those away at this side, so you can still actually come the whole way round here and still go to the engine room and stuff around the corner. Currently walking through to the Genesis. This is actually a working cafe as well, so it's pretty good. Hi Ben. Hi. So you can actually have a bite to eat and something to drink as well. Currently walking. This room in the is actually the bridge of the ship. This is where the wheel would have been. It's a very, very interactive room, so you can see these computer screens and stuff behind me are all touchscreen, and they let you explore the bits of the ship that you're not actually allowed to go into physically. He's going to give us his favourite fact. What is it, Ben?
So the parts of turbines on board the ship, they were installed in 1914 when Caroline was built, and they are supposedly the last remaining turbines in any ship in the world, Parsons turbines.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate your help. See you later. Enjoy your lunch. So I'm entering the sick bay now. These rooms always freak me out a little bit because obviously there was a lot of death and illness in these rooms in the 1910s, but it was restored to how it would have looked like back then. This in here is the kitchen, and that was the kitchen for the whole crew. Pretty small quarters for a ship so big, and conveniently placed and hygienically placed beside it are the toilets. So I'm going to go onto the upper deck now again, get a nice view of the surrounding areas. More of those guns. There were 4 of the smaller guns at the front and 4 at the back, and then obviously they had the big guns too. So nice views from up here of Titanic Quarter. And I'm going up to the very, very top deck, and that's the highest point. It's quite steep though, so you gotta watch my step. And yeah, this is where the main wheel would have been. I was wrong about it being downstairs. Views up here. Another interesting fact about the Caroline is that it was actually the Naval Reserve headquarters for the Royal Navy in Belfast during World War II. So it was docked here. Earlier about it being the most accessible ship in the UK, this is one of the features it has. It's one of the lifts that take you from the upper to the lower decks. So good feature to have. So just coming off the Caroline now, brilliant tour, really good place to go, and they've restored it so accurately as well. It's incredible. So I'm walking over now to the Titanic pump house, and that was newly reopened. I think it was last year as well. It's now a visitor centre, and it also has a cafe too. So one of the stops to go on to. So I'm going into the visitor centre now, and it has lots of artefacts from around the time of the Caroline. And if you go on through here, it's one of the more interactive zones. Definitely worth a visit if you're going across there. As you go through, it actually has the whole timeline of the ship's history. Very interesting reading it. Extremely interesting history of the ship, and we're quite blessed to have it in the city now. Just want to go back to this chap here. He is Captain Crook. He was the first in command of the HMS Caroline, and he was in command at the Battle of Jutland too. He was quite apparently a stern captain, but he was much loved by the crew. So that's our Fact Friday done for today from the magnificent HMS Caroline. Thanks from the team, especially Melissa at the Caroline, for showing us around today. I'm going to go get coffee now, but probably in the pump house behind me. But if you have any suggestions in future, reach us on @DocumentBelfast on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Alternatively, you can email us on documentbelfast@gmail.com, or you can write to us if that floats your boat. Again, another pun, sorry about that. But see you next week.